Welcome back to Dying Out Loud on the Line. Thanks for tuning in tonight. It's our third show. Wow, we're already at number 3. We're happy to be coming to you again tonight. Thanks for being here with us. The lines are open as always. This is a call-in show where we talk about all things dying, living and dying. That pretty much covers everything, I guess. We'd love to hear from you, and we any subjects open, so just call in and let us know what's on your mind. Want to thank Jimmy and the other producers of The Line for bringing this to you and allowing me this opportunity, this platform. Your host, Dave Warnock, and thanks for being here. I'm going to read, speaking of dying, I'm going to read something to you that I came across recently that really struck me. I do, as you know, if you know anything about my work, you know that I talk a lot about dying out loud, living on your terms, making the most of life, living in the moments, those kinds of things. Grabbing the diem, carpe the fucking diem. That's kind of a motto that I've had. And it just simply means grab life. It's the one life we know we have. Someone took issue with me saying that I was certain that we only have this life. I don't say that. I say this is the one life we know we have. I don't say we know this is our only life. There could be something beyond the grave. Who knows? If there is, we'll deal with that then. Right now, all we have is now. And so this again, I came across this recently. I want to read it to us before I bring my guest on and we take some calls. You start dying slowly if you do not travel, if you do not read, if you do not listen to the sounds of life, if you do not appreciate yourself. You start dying slowly when you kill your self-esteem, when you do not let others help you. You start dying slowly if you become a slave to your habits, walking every day on the same paths, if you do not change your routine, if you do not wear different colors, or you do not speak to those you don't know. You start dying slowly if you avoid to feel passion and its turbulent emotions, those that make your eyes glisten and your heart beat fast. You start dying slowly if you do not change your life when you are not satisfied with your job or with your love or with your surroundings. If you do not risk what is safe for the uncertain, if you do not go after a dream, if you do not allow yourself at least once in your lifetime to run away from sensible advice. I've done that more than once. There's a lot there. If any of that strikes a nerve with you, I'd love to hear from you. Call in tonight. Talk to us about that. It goes along with what I've said many times before. There are some things worse than dying. And to me, the thing that's worse than dying is not really living. And that's the thing I want to avoid. Not living, not making the most of life, and just getting through and staying alive. To me, that's worse than dying. So on that happy note, let me bring in my guest for tonight, Erin Lewis. Hey, Erin.
Hi.
Glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
You're probably one of those that has avoided dying slowly. As I know a little bit about the life you've lived. You've grabbed some opportunities, haven't you?
I've certainly given it my best shot.
That's all we can
do. Yeah.
I mean, you've not settled for the routine. You've not settled for the safe and predictable path.
No, and mostly I think it's just because I was, stubborn and not really, just not really content doing what other people told, what they told me to do. So, basically just being defiant and kind of a pain in the ass. That's been my MO. So I guess that's my secret to living.
Right. You would say you've not been a rule follower?
Yeah, you could probably say that. I'd say that fits.
You were, if I know, let's see, you were raised Catholic or no? You weren't really you didn't really live it very long. You kind of exited faith at an early age, if I remember right.
Yeah, and I wasn't really, I I was never really religious. Like my family had pretty much given up Catholicism by the time I came around. I'm the last of 6 kids, and I'm 9 to 14 years younger than the rest of my
wow.
siblings.
Mm-hmm.
So they had more of a traditional like Catholic upbringing than I did. Mine was more, they kind of left it. My dad had left at that point, and so it was just my mom, and she ended up having to work and had never worked before and all that other stuff. So, religion was not really that fallback. And then there's the whole thing about, not getting divorced. So that kind of put a damper on church. So church was like for wedding and funerals and stuff like that. That was pretty much it. So
so you never really bought into the whole believing in God and living by the Bible and all that stuff.
Definitely not the Bible. So the first Bible I've ever owned is the one I took from the hotel from the American Atheist.
No way, really?
It's very literally my first Bible.
That's the one you had some of us signing, right? We were signing that at the American Atheist Conference.
Yeah, I remember that. That's why I have it. So my only Bible is signed by a bunch of atheists. Andrew crossed out in the beginning and wrote "Once Upon a Time." So thanks for that.
Fixed it for you. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I believed in God. I did as I got older. I had a lot of doubts, but I was very much, kind of cornered by the idea. It was scary to me to not believe in God, so I think I just didn't really think about it a whole lot until, finally you have things that happen, and then you start thinking about it, and then when you apply that same logic you did to Santa Claus and whatever, I mean, it's not really that hard to pick apart. But I prayed when I was a kid. I prayed in my 20s. Huh?
I said it was for some of us. Apparently, it was hard to get out. I mean, I didn't wake up nearly that at a young age. I lived it my whole life. I can't believe that still.
So if I try to explain sometimes to people that have never believed in God, people that were my kid actually, and my husband was raised secularly too. So if I try to explain to them what it was like to actually believe that there was somebody watching all the time, that somebody listened to your thoughts and your, prayer, like that was the actual like thing that I believed was a true thing. It's hard, they look at you like, what? And so, I started with that ingrained in my head, that belief that there was a deity or something. But actually I read your book, on the way to the conference, or I was listening to it, and you came into it much differently. You kind of started out with, you didn't have it like it wasn't a big part of it. So for me, I was letting go of something, but you like actually chose that and got into it. So it's a different, I think, different perspective.
I have no one to blame for myself.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised in it. I chose it willingly, and I still, I mean, I understand the reasons why I did, but I look back at all the years that I spent believing things that I look back now and realize, how could I believe that? And a lot of us experience those questions and ideas, but it doesn't help us to go back and regret things. We just live and learn and move on.
It feels, it feels silly to me. It feels goofy that I believed in some of the things that I used to believe in.
It is.
Like even astrology,
Yeah.
I looked at my horoscope and I was like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, right.
I'm a Scorpio.
Yeah. Based on where you were born and how the stars, come on. I'm sorry. Well,
I know. Go ahead.
Well, we've got callers, and that's fine. Do you go ahead and you want to finish your thought there? I want to cut you off. Sorry.
Oh, I know a lot of people that don't believe in God that still believe in astrology and some other stuff.
I know, right? I don't understand. You exchange one mystical thinking for another. I don't know. I think there maybe are people who just need to believe in something. I don't know.
I actually think it, and I just think it's a spectrum of where it crosses the line when it starts to become harmful. I mean, I
Yeah,
would think
true.
I was a vegan witch for like 8 months because I found a book in this thrift store.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, then nothing worked. I think I was probably like 13 or 14. Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
like, well, this isn't working.
Yeah.
What am I
No,
doing wrong?
shocking.
So
Well, we've got
yeah.
lines open, folks. So call in. A couple of you on the line. Let's take a call. We've got Arlindo, him from the UK. Hello, Arlindo. You're on the line with Dave and Erin. What's on your mind?
Hi, Dave. Hi, Erin. I hope you can hear me because I had some problems with sound earlier. Is my voice all right? Yeah, you can hear me clearly.
Yeah, we hear you. Yep.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say I hope you get to live the rest of your days in great joy, Dave. You know, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that.
Thank you. I appreciate that thought.
No problem. No problem. I've got two topics here. I didn't really think about religion for these topics, but I suppose it can relate to religion in a way. So the first one is a possible scenario. It's an imaginary scenario. So basically, as humankind continues to look for solutions to perceived problems, one day we invent a cure for antisocial personality disorder and criminal minds in general. And let's say it comes in the form of a pill. Would you agree that once this happens, it makes no sense to punish those who committed crimes or atrocities in the past after taking a pill that changes their brain chemistry to the point of genuinely making them remorseful, even causing them to experience guilt and disbelief at who they were, prompting them to even recompense their victims? You know, if it all comes down to brain makeup that you never picked from the beginning, and, you know, this scenario is made very salient for everyone. Mm-hmm. It could potentially spell the end of like just desserts or retributive justice, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that the family? Yeah. Do you think the families of murder victims could ever accept the release of former murderers from incarceration? And I wonder how secular people would view this, and how religious people would view it. It's it's one of those things that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's quite complex, isn't it? I just wonder, as science makes advances, how will religious people keep up, but also how will secular people keep up with it? Because I imagine even secular people can be driven by emotions mostly rather than rationality. And when it comes to things like this, they would feel very strongly, wouldn't they?
Yeah, those are difficult questions. I don't know if secular people would look at that differently from religious people. I suspect they might. If you look at Christianity, especially the biblical Christianity, the Bible is filled with the language of retribution and guilt and punishment, and having a scapegoat pay for your sins. All of that, the whole nonsense, the nonsensical idea of Jesus having to die to pay for our sins. God couldn't forgive our sins without the death of his son. All of that is very retributive, if you say. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but it's all about somebody has to pay. And so what you're suggesting is if a criminal who committed an atrocity like a mass murder or abduction and murder of a child or something, if that criminal took a pill and it changed their brain makeup to where they were genuinely remorseful, and it's like they woke up from a dream they were in when they did that, would we would we be justified in letting that criminal go free? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's right. And it seems to conflict with, it seems like morally we'd be obliged to release them because they're not the same people as they were before. But then at the same time, it just feels like it wouldn't sit well with the families of the victims, especially if the victims died at the hands of these criminals.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like in trying to do the right thing, it feels like we'd also be offending other people, because they would feel strongly about the situation.
Yeah,
and sometimes people feel traumatized when they see the faces of murderers, that affected their families, and it's just it's like a possible scenario. Perhaps it could happen in the future, and I just imagine all sorts of problems.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What?
I suppose, I think what I could even tell you about the second scenario, which is similar to this one, and it probably pertains to people. It actually pertains to grief as well. So basically, as we continue to solve problems as a species, we decide to make a happy pill that precludes grief. So when we, yeah, sorry, is that an echo in the background?
Mm-hmm.
That was
You're
strange.
okay.
Anyway, yeah, cool. So we invent a pill that precludes grief when we lose a loved one. And say there's a mother that sees her child die after being hit by a car and has the option to reach for a happy pill in her pocket, an anti-grief pill that will preclude the suffering that would surely follow. Are we willing to forego grief after losing a loved one? After taking such pill, will we create new psychological problems? Like potential side effects caused by lacking the bereavement process? Because for many, it would feel like a betrayal of our deceased loved ones, wouldn't it? In some sense, we would feel guilty of not feeling anything, where feeling something would be appropriate, right?
Well, it's appropriate because we're used to it. I think that's the thing. I don't know. These are really deep philosophical questions that I'm completely
I'm so
unqualified.
sorry.
But no, it's a good thought experiment. Erin, what are your thoughts so far on this?
I guess on the
first
prison,
part.
yeah, my first thought was if you take away all the criminal murderous thoughts, horror writers will get really boring. But I think the questions more about is prison or locking somebody up more about revenge or making them pay, or is it about preventing them from doing something again? So I think morally you'd have to ask yourself that question first, is what is the end goal here? And then if it is simply about revenge or getting back at the person, but we know they're not going to hurt anybody else again, I mean, I think that's a question we need to look deep inside ourselves. And, is revenge a healthy thing? I don't know. I'm also extremely unqualified to answer that question. As far as the grief thing, wouldn't even know how to begin to touch that. I've dealt with a lot of grief after I lost my mom, and I don't know. Would I choose to not have that? Part of that is remembering her. So I can't remember what it was. Something. Right. It was some stupid, ridiculous movie, but they were like, people don't start to die until you stop remembering them, or something like that. And I was like, that, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, would I just remember her without the sad part of it? I don't know. I don't know. So that's my terrible answer. I really have no idea.
No problem. It's all right. It's just I imagine that some people wouldn't take the pill and they would go through the grieving process, whilst others would be too scared of going through that, and then they will take the pill. But then, if we take the pill and then we don't feel anything, then I imagine that there would be the guilt side effect. It's like I should be feeling something, and then we end up feeling guilty for having taken the pill because we don't feel anything because of the pill, and and then we might even end up taking another pill for the guilt. And then the question is, are we prepared to risk losing our humanity for the sake of, always being okay with what may happen? It's not to mention the fact that there.
Uh-oh, did we lose him? I think we may be having some trouble with call-in. We've had a couple of calls that have dropped. I don't know what's going on. I guess Jimmy will let me know if we've got an issue. Sounds like we lost Arlindo. He may get back. Are you there? Yeah, we lost you for a minute.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm just wondering if, in trying to get to a place where we no longer suffer, we end up losing our humanity. I mean, I don't know how to ask you this, Dave. It might be a bit of a personal question, but you've got people that care about you around you, and loved ones. Say you lived in that future, would you want, after you pass, would you want people to take that pill so they don't suffer because they lost you, or would you want them to grieve? I don't know if that's appropriate to ask, or
I want them to suffer. I want them all to suffer. No, that's those are tough questions. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer for these things, either one of these particular philosophical questions. The one about the happy pill to preclude grief, I think you touched on it, Arlindo, that if we have pills that mitigate all sorts of negative feelings and that we only want to feel happy things, then we're stuck in a movie like Pleasantville where, everything's artificial, everything's pretend, there's nothing real, because we've negated anything that might seem like a negative. And how do we know what's really a negative emotion? I mean, we think that pain is, but if you think about physical pain, if your body didn't send you pain signals to warn you that you're in danger, then you would burn your arm off, accidentally, because you touched something and you didn't jerk back because it was hot, or any number of other scenarios. So to think that a negative emotion like pain or grief is automatically a bad thing, even using the word negative to describe it, why do we assume that grief is a negative emotion? If something to be avoided, what would be there in its place? So if you lose a loved one and you don't feel anything, but maybe happy memories, but there's no sense of loss there, it seems like it would minimize the value of that person to you in some way.
That's
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very good. No. That, to me, that sounds like a very good answer. I reckon that would be the best argument to make to those people who may argue that a society may become more productive without grief and guilt. That doing away with such emotions is pragmatic, and that it's time. That maybe we may have to do that in order to be more productive in society. I can imagine people making that argument, that it's time we take that route and leave
Well,
our
that's yeah,
emotions
that's
behind.
assuming that
But
the ultimate
what you
goal
said,
is productivity. You know, why would we
yeah,
make that the ultimate goal? I think studies have shown that some of the happiest societies are those who are more relaxed and not as intent on working and producing and all of the stress and anxiety that comes with that. So if we're assuming that the goal is productivity and pragmatism, and we want to eliminate any feeling or emotion that gets in the way of that, I'm not sure that's a win.
it's definitely not a win in my eyes. I'd take your side in that debate, Dave.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that would diminish the value of those we have lost. So anyway, I haven't got anything else, but it's been nice talking to you, even though you guys have said several times that you're not qualified to answer these questions because they're deeply philosophical. I feel like you guys have, and yeah, it's been nice talking to you about that. And I wish you all the best, and Erin as well, you know. And I hope you get to enjoy the rest of your days in great joy and peace. You know,
Yeah,
even if it's just you, but you know, you enjoy the sensations of doing that, you know, and really embrace it. So I think every moment is special. But yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Orlando. Yeah, those are
Thank you.
No problem. Take care.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Those are good philosophical. I mean, those are like I said. There's no right or wrong answer for the things he was posing. The whole retribution, like you made a good argument, Erin, that, you know, are we after vengeance, or, you know, do we want them to pay for their sins? How does that? I mean, if someone's murdered a loved one of mine, how am I better off? I've already lost the loved one. How does them paying for that benefit me in any way?
Well, I think the idea behind that is that it's cathartic, that that person is now suffering because you're suffering, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think we kind of, you know, you got to think about what does that say about you, and as far as, like, you know, trying to move on or trying to, you know, process your feelings, like, that's kind of not, I don't know. I mean, ask me if somebody, you know, murdered my kid. You
Right.
know, I have a very different view on the subject, but you know, I guess I don't know. I do think it's a moral question. But I do think that we have kind of a set up culture of, you know, somebody does something bad to me and they should pay for it above and beyond whatever, you know, monetary value that might have.
Mhm.
Is it okay to hurt somebody because they hurt you, I guess, is the question. So, because you know, at least I think part of our justification for locking people up for the rest of their lives is so that they don't go out and do whatever really horrible thing they did. You know, but sometimes that stuff is not particularly all that horrible, you know, if it's, you know, and then they're locked up forever. So drugs, or, you know, like financial crimes or whatever, things that aren't like violent. So if you had a pill that cured all that stuff, or if you had one that only cured like violent stuff, and like those people could get out, but, you know, the person that committed like tax fraud or something is going to be in there forever, or embezzlement, or, you know, something. I mean, I don't know. I think we got to question how we would feel, you know, how we treat people and how all that works. I think raises some interesting questions, but I don't know. I guess I'm very much not qualified to answer that.
Well, yeah. By the way, we have lines open. Call in. Let us know what you think about these ideas of sin and judgment and punishment, or the other one about the grief and the feeling no pain, and those kind of issues. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. The lines are open, so give us a call. I saw an article recently. I didn't read through the whole thing, but speaking of this, of the punishment and crimes, the Jewish synagogue that there was a mass shooting. God, it was like 4 years ago, and they're just now coming to trial, I think. And the guy, the defense is their defense is insanity, I think, schizophrenia and things like that. The shooter had anti-Semitic posts and things. He was clearly he had posted and was even saying when he was committing the crime that he was wanting to kill the Jews, and this was something that he was full of hatred about. So there was, in the article, there was debate over. I mean, they were going to have the trial to determine his guilt or innocence, and I guess he would be innocent by reason of insanity at some level if that's what they were able to get. But then there would be a second trial that would decide his punishment. And the two things on the table were life imprisonment and death penalty. And it said that many of the victims were calling for the death penalty. And I can understand that sentiment, but I don't know. What do you think about those two options, Erin? I mean, if that had been one of your family members in that synagogue that was gunned down, or like you said, one of your kids at a school shooting, how do you handle that?
I think. Well, I think my main opposition to the death penalty in the first place is the fact that, we've executed people that probably didn't do it, or we've let way too many people out of jail that have been in jail for a long freaking time, that were innocent. So that's really my first opposition to the death penalty. But getting back to the retribution thing and all that kind of stuff, I think, at least with the mindset that I have now, and like I said, ask me if something like that were really to happen, or ask me 20 years ago, and you probably would get completely different answers. But as I sit right now, my thought is, I would want to try it. Like, if I lost my kid, if I wasn't going to completely give up on life and still want to live, then my goal would be to process those feelings enough to where I could actually start to live my life again. And I don't see how executing the person that did that would ultimately help, if I'm trying to look at it from like a psychologically healthy framework. That person's death is not really going to change anything that happened or change anything in my realm. I'm still left with a load of bullshit to deal with, and they have their own bullshit. I don't know. I think, perhaps in my mind, the healthiest way to move on for the people that are still left, for myself, or, to be able to, would be to, disconnect from that person.
Yeah.
Whether they live or die or whatever, I above and beyond knowing that they would never do it again, I say. But other than that, I don't see how their death would improve my state anymore.
No, I can't see that either. And yet, what's fascinating to me is the individuals and areas, states, and so on who claim to be the most pro-life are in favor of the death penalty. And I think it has to do with that Christian underpinning, and that Jesus, that Christianity is a death cult. I mean, let's just admit it. Let's just call it what it is. It's a bloody death cult. And so the people that claim to be pro-life are the most pro-death penalty.
This subject actually came up, I think, with on Matt's show. Was, there are some, and this wasn't something that I experienced when I believed in God or considered myself a Christian or a Catholic. Apparently, that's not a thing. I don't know. Whatever.
Well, you weren't really a Christian if you were Catholic.
That's so wacky to me. Like, we still believe in the same, like, drank blood and ate flesh and shit.
Yeah,
I didn't. Never did that.
No, of course not. You would never eat the body of Jesus.
Back to church that doesn't get up and have the cracker and wine. Still have no idea what it tastes like. It used to bug the shit out of me when I was little. But it never really occurred to me that people are actually giddy about the thought of other people going to hell. And we talked a little bit about that part of being in a cult, part of believing in conspiracy or being part of this thing is feeling special, feeling like you're part of a chosen or an elite group, or that you're somehow better than somebody else, right? I mean, the ultimate goal is to other people. And what do you do with the others? Well, you watch them burn for eternity, and apparently you're happy about that. And so, I think that speaks to the same punishment crime question is, do we have to ask ourselves, are we really happy at somebody else's suffering? And if we are, maybe we should kind of think about that.
What does that say about me?
I mean, exactly. Like we need to I think we need to just shine a light on that and see, what that uncovers. But ultimately I think, the pro-life crowd is also pro, suffering for the people that don't fit into, that aren't part of their group. It's not part of their tribe. And I think that's extremely important in keeping religion, conspiracies, any other type of tribalistic or othering, type scenario. That's how you feel special, is that you have to have those other people. Otherwise you're just the same as them. And what fun is that?
That's true. It's a sad indictment. And I shifted my views on all these things when I left Christianity and identified as an atheist. I was more of a pro-death penalty person. I think it was because the ideas of Judeo-Christian ethics were embedded within me, and that's what that system depends upon. Someone's got to pay for this sin. You can't just look at them and say, you know what, I forgive you, or I'm letting you off because I know you'll never do it again, or whatever. Somebody's blood has to be spilled. That's the whole system. And if you break that system down, they've lost their whole ideology, and it doesn't work anymore. Let's take another call. How about that? We beat this horse to death. Jason, he, him in Maryland, you're on the line. Dave and Erin, how are you doing?
Hey, hello.
Hello, Jason.
Last week I talked to Erin, who was here with Matt, and Matt suggested I come on and talk to you guys. But I wanted to talk about kind of the idea of what Christian Hitchens said: religion poisons everything. A couple of days ago, the singer Tina Turner died, and we know that she was a Buddhist, and I saw some people online, Christians in particular, saying that she will be in hell because she didn't serve God or whatever. And I was just thinking, like, look at this woman who's been through all the hell in her life, and to say that she would go to hell because she didn't believe in God, and because she practiced something different, it was so absurd. And I think it really captures how religion really poisons everything. That the fact that people would think a woman will go to hell because she didn't serve a particular God. I just want to get you guys' thoughts on that.
Well, Erin, you were just touching on it. What do you have to say to Jason?
I really do think that it's about that feeling of need of superiority for particularly for people that are that extreme, because the vast majority of people I know, whether they're Christians or simply just believers in a deity or the higher power or the universe or whatever the fuck they think is out there controlling or judging or whatever after we die, the vast majority of people are like, if you're a good person, it doesn't matter what you believe in. You know what I'm saying? Like, God's not going to punish you if you're not an asshole on earth. That was pretty much the God I grew up with. That was the God after, mom left Catholicism and whatever. That's who I was raised with, and the idea that I was raised with. And that was generally, even with like people that I thought of really religious, I can't think of anybody that would have thought a Buddhist or Tina Turner or somebody who was just genuinely a decent human being for for everything we know about her. She's, I do think that the vast majority of people model their gods on their own sense of morality and ethics. So if you're the kind of person that's going to walk around and kick a puppy because you're just a dick, or you're going to be somebody's going to hell regardless of whether they were a good person or not, you're going to be that person. Your God, that's a reflection. Your God is going to be a reflection of that. If you're a person that says, hey, this person didn't believe in God, or this person believed in the fairies that live in their closet, but they were a good person and they did nice things for people, and they were, they returned their shopping carts to the corral and stuff, that person's going to go to heaven. Well, that's the God that you believe in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think people really, they mistake these supernatural morality guides for really their own sense of, just not being a dick. So when I see people that like we talked about before, that are giddy about people suffering just because they didn't believe, to me, that falls in line with flat earthers and anti-vaxxers that feel really good about having this knowledge and this power over everybody else. They're not sheep. They're the ones that are thinking for themselves. So they've created this air of superiority and this divide and this tribalism that allows them to feel good about themselves, feel like they have a purpose, and have this whatever. I don't think that that's, I think that that's where that comes from. I don't necessarily think that even comes from a God belief or a religion belief, because most people's gods that I know of don't think that way. I think, it's the people online, the real extremists that are doing that, people that have issues. Regardless, I think religion is just a hammer.
Well, it is. It's a hammer in the hand of the person who does feel superior. They do. I think it is the people that you mentioned, Erin, that want to feel superior and want to feel like they're one up on someone else, and they've got the secret knowledge, and they use religion as a tool to bludgeon others with. I do remember feeling conflicted when I was a believer, when I was a Christian, with the idea that people were going to go to hell that I knew were good people, but they just didn't have the right theology. They just didn't believe the right thing about Jesus. They hadn't prayed to receive the Lord. And so I was conflicted about that, but my theology demanded that I believe that. It demanded that, I've said this before, but my theology was such that if I was true to it, I would have to say that Ted Bundy is in heaven and Anne Frank is in hell, because she was a Jewish girl that never received Jesus. And when I've posed that question to Christians, they like to tap dance around it and say that we don't know that Ted Bundy prayed. We don't know that Anne Frank could have prayed before she died. We don't know that, Dave. We don't know. God is the one who decides who gets in and who doesn't. But the point is lost on them, and they do it on purpose, I know, because it's a very uncomfortable scenario to think that this innocent Jewish girl who was tortured and killed by the Nazis and never was the proper Christian, she was a Jewish girl, so she didn't pray to receive Jesus. The Bible's clear that you have to be born again. And Ted Bundy famously did what he did, and yet in death row repented and prayed to receive Jesus. So he's got a get out of jail free pass. He's got the golden ticket, and she, unfortunately, didn't.
So
go ahead.
I have two things really fast. Is first thing, and I am sort of unintentionally plugging my new book.
Do it intentionally.
So that actually was kind of what spurred the idea for my book, South of Heaven. It's fiction, but it's about somebody that gets into heaven who kind of prays just at the last minute, and she gets in, and she's there with people exactly like you described. In fact, without spoiling it, there's I read about Jeffrey Dahmer, and he's somebody that Christians actually hold up. Anybody can be redeemed. Look, all you have to do is this and that. It's great. You got into heaven. And it's like, who the fuck wants to be in heaven with Jeffrey Dahmer? So that was part of my deal. And of course, she gets into heaven and it sucks and she tries to get out. That's the point. But the other thing, when actually, now I'm going to plug your book. But your story, along with other stories, people, leaders that were in the church, and how they made it out is always that, at least that I've seen, is the running theme. That is that they're conflicted, that their beliefs mean that people that they care about or people that they see are good or whatever in real life are either going to be punished or judged or, whatever. That is what always seems to be, from what I've read, the catalyst for people moving beyond is their own morality. Their morality isn't matching the morality of the God that they believe in. And that is what kicks them right out. It's something that like I said, and
That's
they always fight it.
Hello?
Like in your book, you fought that. You did what you could when you started manipulation and stuff like that happen, and you constantly fought to do the right thing, and that's what caused your conflict. Is that sometimes that right thing was not necessarily in line with your theology, and it was actually like your story, and I'm thinking of Dan Barker's and a couple of others. Kind of had that same idea, and it's kind of amazing to watch because it's just or to read or to learn about and to kind of see how that happened. But it's your own morality, it's your own not being an asshole inherently that ended up pulling you out of that.
Hello?
Yeah, Jason, what are your thoughts on that? Sorry, we kind of took over that.
It's okay. As you guys were talking, it really made me think about this idea of revenge, because revenge is such a human idea. We don't really see this idea of revenge really in nature. We see a spider eat a caterpillar or something, and that's it. The spider just eats a caterpillar. I think my personal opinion is that I think if a person is a mass murderer or something and he kills a whole bunch of people, I think it's just us and our human brain saying there has to be some type of judgment. There has to be some type of there has to be a punishment for a person who does something horrible. But I think if we look at the world in in which it's just random stuff happening, I think some people probably think that's really depressing. So it results into them praising God or saying that God will punish enemies and bad people. But it's such a human concept. We see horrible things in nature all the time, and nothing happens. Nobody thinks twice about the pig you just ate a few seconds ago, or the cow you just ate. We eat meat and that's it.
Yeah, the idea of a vengeful God, I think it's clear if we look at the Bible, especially the Old Testament, we see that God was created in man's image, not the other way around. We see a jealous God, a vengeful God, a God who's angry, a God whose only answer for people going astray is to drown them all. That's just the only solution he could come up with, is to just drown all of humanity, babies, pregnant mothers, animals, even. That's a nonsensical idea, and yet Christians cling to it as though it's some kind of a virtuous thing that God did. And then they want to point to the rainbow as some sign of what? I mean, when Christians get excited about a rainbow, I just always, my head spins. You do know that what that means is God is promising that he won't get so pissed off again that he kills everybody. That's what that means, right? You do understand that. And
I had no idea that meant.
Really?
I did not even know that that's what that meant. Maybe I vaguely remember. Like I said, I was raised Catholic, man. We didn't read the Bible.
I know.
I guess maybe I do. I remember the rainbow afterwards. Yeah, but how do you get up? Dude, I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
How do you get over all the time? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. What probably happened was somebody read it to me when I was like little, and I started asking those kind of questions. That was probably the last Bible story. I had to research the Adam and Eve story, and I looked up for Expose Yourself, and I looked up the the children's version of it to like refresh my memory of what it actually meant, and I was like, this is fucking horrible. You teach this? This is actually meant for kids, and this is ridiculous that you would ever. We believe teach this. I see, and that's the thing. It was never taught to me seriously, so I never had done that when I was a kid. Yeah.
Hang on, let me jump in real quick. Hey, Jason, do you have the phone on speakerphone or something? Because we're just getting a crazy amount of echo from you.
No, actually, I muted it.
Oh.
You've been muted on off? Yeah, around the times of the calls, I've been from your line getting a lot of echoing, but yeah, we'll see how it goes from now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jason, real quick before we let you go, how do you respond to the Christian theists who talk about the afterlife and someone like Tina Turner and claim that they know she's in hell? Do you respond to them at all?
Well, to be honest, I just find it so absurd. But I just say, if that was the case, I would think a God that created the universe, for crying out loud, there would be some sort of evidence of something on Earth or something that would let it be known that Buddhists go to hell or whatever. But yeah, I just find it absurd, and I don't really go into it. I think it really tells me a lot about their mentality and how they think.
I agree. It is ludicrous, and I agree with you. So it's really not worth the breath we might waste on that conversation. But thanks for bringing this up, Jason. That's a good topic. Thank you for calling.
All right, thank you guys for allowing me to call in.
You bet, man. Anytime. And we have another Jason in Mississippi, he, him. Jason, you're on the line with Dave and Erin. What's on your mind?
Well, first off, hopefully you're all doing well, Dave, Erin, and
doing
Jimmy.
Well.
So I got sort of stuck on the conversation you're having 2 callers ago, dealing with crime, punishment, retribution, and the various flavors of. And I'm going through a master's course right now that's dealing with criminology, and one, that's rough. My undergrad's nowhere near criminal justice, but anyway, I digress.
Mm-hmm.
So, dealing with, at least here in the U.S., the U.S. justice system works mostly on a retribution style punishment system.
Right.
And I've looked a little into it, and the idea of a rehabilitation focused criminal justice system would be great, but no one's willing to put the time, the money, or the effort into it because there's no money there, except, the bottom line for the GDP. But, wow, where was I going with this?
Well, the crime and punishment system, retribution, how we treat offenders, all that stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
So, being on the left side of life, I'm always trying to get people to do better, be better, and not being, sorry, the brain doesn't go.
Well, what are your thoughts on the topic of punishment, retribution, those kind of things?
So, punishment, retribution, there should be some negative association with a offense or a crime to dissuade people from, committing said offenses. But if they do commit the offense, how do we get them reintroduced into society after said offense and after said punishment?
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I don't know of a good way to do that. I've looked into the Scandinavian style prisons, which are absolutely amazing because they have a lower rate of recidivism. I don't know if I used the right word.
Yeah.
Than the U.S. Whereas in the U.S. we have a revolving door in our prison industrial complex, and also looking at it from someone who has to enforce some of these laws, I hate doing that because it means.
Are you in law enforcement? Are you in law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So you see this from the ground floor. You're seeing the revolving doors, you say, with criminals and offenses, and it not really working. The system's not working in your view. Is that what you would say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
what do you see different in Sweden? You said Sweden?
Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden.
What are they doing differently in your view? What are they doing differently that's working?
So they're focusing on getting their criminals. Now, I'm not sure what happens with the more severe crimes, but the lower level ones, no drug offenses, and things that don't actually hurt someone, say burglary versus robbery. What they're doing is they're teaching them valid skills. They're running them through education courses, college courses, and also they have a better living situation by it. It looks like they have college dorms over there. But here in the U.S., no, I'm still here. The way my brain works, it's very hard to keep a track, keep a thought train going.
We're patient.
But
I think, I mean, if we're talking from a moral or ethical standpoint of punishment and dealing with people that have, committed crimes and things like that, I think, being able to treat or help or whatever they have going on is a more ethical and moral way to deal with it. I think maybe the bigger question, morality wise, because I mean, we could probably talk all day about what's wrong with the American system, but I think from a morality standpoint, and just like society, we still have to deal with people that are like sociopaths that like just don't give a fuck, that you'll never be able to rehab out of nothing. They'll always be really rotten. And I think like the moral ethical issue is more, how do we just prevent them from doing other bad shit? But when it comes to somebody that for circumstances, either they stole or they did whatever, maybe even murderers to a certain extent, I think once we've eliminated the risk of them doing something else, I think it is kind of our obligation to, kind of make sure they're not going to do that morally, ethically. But I certainly don't see that changing in our country when it's profit driven. There's no incentive to change that.
Yeah, I think you raised a good point, Jason. There has to be some kind of some deterrent. Even if the original caller tonight, if there was a pill we could give people that would change their brain chemistry, that they wouldn't do these things again, there still has to be a deterrent. In my view, some kind of a deterrent to to help prevent similar crimes. There has to be something that the rank and all of society looks at and says, well, I don't want to do something like that. I mean, we can trust that most people are good and they just inherently don't want to rob and steal and kill. But for those who might be tempted to do so for various reasons, maybe they just have a legitimate need. They're desperate and they think, I'm just going to go steal this thing that's not mine. There has to be a deterrent. Or there would be, in my view, there would, society wouldn't work. Don't you think? I don't know. What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Certainly some sort of deterrent. Can't remember what I watched the other day. I said there certainly has to be some sort of deterrent. I was watching something the other day on glitter bombs for people that were stealing Amazon packages.
Oh, yeah.
That seemed to be quite effective. They're like, well, we'll never do that again. So, I don't know. No, there obviously has to be some kind of a way to make people not want to do that in the first place. You know, I just wonder how much revenge, how much, what's our, where's the line between revenge and deterrent, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's tough. And then revenge that, for the sake of making them pay, making someone suffer because they made someone else suffer. That I don't know how far that goes or how much good that does. Tough questions tonight. I don't have the answers.
Yeah.
What I mean, how would you if you're in law enforcement in the U.S. in the South, even Mississippi, if you were in charge of completely revamping our criminal justice system, what would be the first thing you would do, Jason?
Well, the first would be to make at least drug possession crimes not a criminal offense.
What's that? What's a direct possession crime?
Drug possession, as in
they have possession. I thought you said direct possession. So, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I might not be speaking clearly.
That's okay.
That'd be the first thing, as well as trying to move everyone who is in prison right now because of things such as mandatory minimum sentencing.
Mm-hmm.
Get them moved into essentially a halfway house situation where they can be slowly reintroduced back into society. Make sure they don't have a felony on their record as long as they haven't done anything else. And that would take care of a significant population in our prison system.
Yeah.
Now, that would obviously mess up the privatized industry problems and their bottom line, but
yeah,
I also am not a huge fan of that. There are benefits to a privatized or parts of the prison system and the federal system being privatized.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a profit incentive, whereas when the government runs it, there is no profit incentive. There's we're doing this because it's the thing that needs to get done and it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And
I guess it sounds like the bottom line is the problem is that we've got a profit-driven system, and they're not going to do anything to change that because there's money involved.
Well, don't you know? We live in a capitalistic hellscape.
Apparently. I've heard that.
So, well, that's all I got coming out of my brain holes.
I appreciate you calling in about that. That's coming from where you're coming from in the system yourself. So that's a lot to think about and quite depressing, honestly. But thanks for calling, Jason.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, and hopefully life goes well for you. Well, as good as it can.
I'm trying. Take care, man.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Oh, man. We got on something deep stuff today. Let's talk to Eric in Washington. He, him. Eric, you're on the line with Dave and Erin. What's on your mind?
Hey, Dave. Hey, Erin. How you guys doing?
Good.
Great. So I'm a former Jehovah's Witness, and actually, before I get into that, Dave, I actually had the pleasure of talking to you a couple weeks ago in that private Zoom call for patrons only. So it was great to talk to you and ask a few questions.
Thank you.
Anyway, I'm back and wanted to get maybe perhaps your unique perspective on this because you obviously gone through a lot of medical difficulties and you're continuing to do so. And Erin, you may have perspective on this as well. But as a former Jehovah's Witness, medical interference from the elders in the congregation and the religion itself is kind of a big thing with the whole, prohibiting blood transfusions, pressuring people to get certain treatments and leaving certain treatments out. Have you ever experienced anything like that from, say, friends, family, your former congregation members? Any type of interference like that you've gone through?
Not me personally. I've been out of faith for so long. I was out of Christianity for quite a few years before I got diagnosed with ALS. So anybody in my Christian family and friends had pretty much moved on from me and wouldn't have the kind of access to me to make those kinds of judgments and suggestions, if you will. Plus, I'm a pretty outspoken and opinionated person, and there's really nobody in my family or friend circle that would even suggest such a thing to me, that I should have religion imposing on me in terms of my medical care. Medical care. That's not been something personal. Now, I've heard story after story of people who have had those issues with family members and church leaders, even though they're not in the church anymore, and other people in imposing religious ideology on their medical care. And in fact, that's what our nonprofit is about. I Am Dying Out Loud is to help people advocate for themselves, to push back against religious overreach in their healthcare and death and dying situations. So this is a big problem in this country, and we just need to continue to address it. Erin, have you had any experience with that?
So,
I
not
have
directly, like I said. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry, did I interrupt you? I think I interrupted you.
Erin, did you have something? Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay. I think Erin was saying something, but
yeah. Okay.
Oh, just
and I I'm sorry. I'll go ahead and just go, and then Erin, I'll let you interrupt me. The delay is pretty bad. So, like I said, as a Jehovah's Witness, the whole prohibitions on blood transfusions is kind of derived from just one or two scriptures, which basically just describe or command to not eat and consume blood. But the witnesses take it further than that and go, eating and consuming means ingesting or putting in your body, and the blood is symbolic for life. So they're going to take it even further than that and just say you just simply can't put any foreign blood in your body. And they take this so far and to such an extreme that they prohibit their members from receiving blood transfusions, and even at the cost of their own life. And parents are pressured to make these decisions for their children if they get put into a life-threatening situation, whether due to an accident or a physical illness. And they go as far as to make witnesses sign basically durable power of attorneys. Like there's special durable power of attorneys that the witnesses print. They have a night at the meeting every few years where everyone signs it, and they have it, notarized, and you give a copy to the elders. And what that does is that enables them to later on, if you're in an accident or your child's in an accident, the elders can just show up at the hospital and just flash that card and go, hey, no blood. And, you know, it's a tense situation. It could be your child's dying. Maybe the parents are having second thoughts because they don't really believe in this, or, you know, whatever reasons they have, or they just simply want their kid to live. And then you got these kind of elder dipshits coming by and going, hey, we have medical documentation for us to intervene. That's kind of like the inside thing with the Jehovah's Witnesses that many people know about. That type of medical interference, I think, is just deplorable. It's horrible because, you know, you're already gone through a tragedy. You could be facing death. Your loved one could be facing death, and you have these guys that have really no business being there. So yeah, I think it's great your charity addresses those things. Anyway, I'm going to finally pass it over to Erin. I'll be quiet for a moment. If Erin, you can have any input on it.
I actually didn't have much, just that I haven't experienced that, except maybe in the form of when COVID was going on and people that, you know, thought the vaccine wasn't a vaccine and either refused to vaccinate their kids or ended up taking it a, you know, step further, you know, with that kind of stuff, that sort of influence. I had no idea that Jehovah's Witness did anything like that. That's really, really kind of scary, actually.
Yeah, it's disturbing, to be sure.
It's pretty bonkers that they go to such extremes, because it's really funny the way they came to this doctrine, because, like I said, they're only going off of this one or two scriptures that they are very loosely interpreting. And they've kind of hit the point now where they're at the point of no return. If they ever change their mind on this, they can't backpedal on it, because they have caused the deaths of so many of their members. And the backlash would be extreme if one day they simply said, hey, we're going to allow blood transfusions now because we believe, you know, we now interpret this scripture differently, which they've done on many other doctrine, but I don't think they'll ever, you know, reverse course on this one, because it's a little bit too real to people than, you know, backtracking on a doctrine about, you know, who is the angel Michael or anything like that. And I guess my recommendation, if anybody is an ex-Jehovah's Witness, I know we got some in the audience, it's something I did when I left. When I was back in, I signed a couple of, you know, durable power of attorneys during those, you know, durable power of attorney evenings at one of the meetings where, you know, you give a copy to the elders. You never know when one of those is going to like resurface. So the first thing that I did when I got out was I went over to a lawyer, and I got a new one that explicitly says all previous ones are null and void. This is my new one, and these are the people I trust to make these medical decisions. And even explicitly call out, do not allow anybody from the Jehovah's Witness organization to represent me. Because it could potentially mean your life one day if, you know, you never know, you're incapacitated in the hospital, something's happening, and all of a sudden, you know, you got some guy from 10 years ago in your congregation coming by with a medical or a legal document. It could kill you, literally. So, cool.
Yeah, that's good advice. If anyone is watching that has been in that situation, get that changed legally. The nonprofit, that pushing back against family members who have control of that, that's a different. I mean, we want to help people advocate for themselves and have the courage and language to talk to their family members about that, or religious leaders. I know that the JWs, that cult, is so controlling that most people in that who are in it now don't feel like they can even speak up against anything that they're saying or doing. So the best we can do at this point is to drop seeds, if you will, of this language of you are in charge of your own health care. It's your life, and it's your right to advocate for yourself. It's your autonomy. It's your body, and don't let anyone else tell you what you can and can't do with it. Now, I know if they're in the throes of that cult, they can't even hear that, because they've signed over their autonomy to their elders, their religious leaders, and other Christians in very controlling environments have done the same. But our pushback is more in the hospital system itself against zealous nurses or doctors who want to impose their faith on people who don't share that faith. And that's where we think we can make some inroads with hospital policies and give people their own tools, advanced directives, and things that they can present in hospitals, so that they are then in charge of their own, not only their own medical care in saying what they do and don't want in terms of medical care, but also their emotional health care or spiritual health care, if you will, so that, that the first mandate in medical care is first do no harm. That's the first rule in medicine. And what we're trying to help doctors and others see, and even individuals see, is that sometimes this religious overreach, this intrusion by religion, is doing harm to people, is causing trauma, is causing damage. And if we can wake people up to that being a part of the issue, then perhaps more people will speak up about this, and we can see less of these horror stories take place. But it's difficult if people don't even feel like they have the right to speak up and advocate for if their child's dying and a blood transfusion would save them and they don't give it to them, I don't know what any of us could say that would cause them to change their mind. That's just the saddest thing in the world.
Yeah, I think the main motivating factor is that they attempt to sell the consequences of accepting a blood transfusion as you're going to lose out on that everlasting life that you're promised later on at some future date. Yeah. They try to paint it as, hey, you're going to make this short-term decision now because at the expense of some long-term benefit later. And yeah, that's a really difficult thing to overcome, because people are convinced.
If you really believe that,
these people are convinced of this with this unfalsifiable promise, and once you get convinced of something that's unfalsifiable, you can't. The only thing that's going to get you out of it is you at that point. And yeah, it's a tricky web they've spun there, because it is such a trap, because the witnesses, like many other cults, they strip autonomy, they strip your rights away, they infantilize you, they make you seem like you can't make your own decisions, you are flawed and weak and hopeless and dumb, and only they can help. So cool. Well, hey, thank you so much for the input, Dave. I really appreciate everything you do and the energy you put into it. And Erin, it's been really great listening to your unique perspective lately. I think this is your second appearance on the line, so I've been enjoying watching what you've had to say. So thanks both, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Right, goodbye.
And let's keep going. What do you think, Erin? We doing okay?
Sure.
We've got Sarah, she, her in Oregon. You're on the line with Dave and Erin. What's up, Sarah?
Hi, guys. So very nice to talk to you.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah, I've got a really deep, I don't know, for me, it's a really hard topic, family issues that we're dealing with my mom, who is currently battling cancer. She recently got her bladder removed, and now she's going through chemo. They didn't get all the cancer. She's struggled with cancer throughout, I don't know, probably her 50s and on. But this one's really bad. I should be more sorry to hear that. And that's what really sucks. She has been abusive through my childhood, raised me Pentecostal. I was very indoctrinated. Just a super toxic, unpredictable mother that, screamed and yelled, hit me. I was raised in this, it was normalized, right? This is how you raise a kid.
Yeah.
Right. This is you yell at them, you tell them what to do. They don't get to have an opinion. And so my childhood, I fawned over her. So I'm going to make a long story short. So I, have my own kids, and I abused them because it's all I knew. It's how I was raised. I continued on that same exact abuse. So I deconstructed that. It was really difficult. In my early 30s, I realized how indoctrinated I was, and I slowly deconstructed my religion thanks to you guys. Really helped me a lot. I'm a completely different person. I'm atheist now. My kids refuse to talk to my mom as well for a myriad of reasons. So now that she's sick, she won't talk about why I won't talk to her, why I've separated from her, why we're not close. She doesn't understand why her grandkids won't talk to her. Just because she's terribly, horribly toxic, rude, abusive, and has no idea that she's doing it. At least she acts like she has no idea. So now that she's sick, she needs me. I'm her only child, right? She needs me now.
Right.
And somehow I'm supposed to have this empathy that she doesn't have for me and my needs and my children and what's going on with them. The last conversation we had before I separated with her for a few years was trying to explain to her that my child has they, them pronouns. Their name is Jean now. It's no longer their given name. And this is, and oh boy, that did not go well at all. So now now she's back into my life. Hey, I'm going to die. I need you. And I really have no interest really in helping her. And I know I should, at least I feel like I should, but at least I want to hash out what's happened and why I'm feeling this way and why we have these issues. But she says, I'm too sick. I need all my energy. I can't deal with that emotional stress right now. So that's in a nutshell.
So you're not able to talk with her about any of this in a way that's productive at all?
It's really difficult. I get railroaded. She doesn't understand me at all. She won't listen. If she asks me why I don't believe in God anymore, it doesn't go well. I shut down. She gets angry. We end up either hanging up on each other, or I leave or she leaves. It's just never gone well. She does not understand at all. Because God is real to her. Huge part of her life.
This is tough. Erin, your thoughts?
I mean, as somebody who actually I don't talk to, I don't really have any connection with my elderly father now, and actually 3 of my brothers. And I mean, I am the last of 6 kids, so, and I'm literally the last person that would be called. So while I had always wondered, and I still wonder what would happen if my dad were really ill, would I go and see him in the hospital? Would I go and help? Would I, whatever? I helped take care of my mom before she passed, but it was an entirely different scenario. I was very, very close with my mom. Whereas my dad, I don't know. I don't have any resentments towards him, but I'm just indifferent. But it sounds like you've come a long way in working through what you've had to deal with your mom already. And so I guess my first thought is, are you working through any of these issues with a professional or a doctor or psychologist that might be helping you kind of navigate this stuff? And my first thought is that if somebody is toxic and abusive, I'm not sure whether it's family or not, how much obligation you have to that person as far as taking care of them. But yeah, I would wonder if you're talking with anybody about this professionally.
I have in the past. They wanted my mom to come in and for us to all have a conversation together. And she didn't want anything to do with that. And that was another long period of time where we were estranged. I didn't talk because they refused to hash it out with me, with a therapist. But I don't, as much therapy as I've had, it's really difficult to unravel something with a therapist that doesn't fully necessarily understand her. And when she doesn't come in and talk with me, people don't understand how ridiculously narcissistic this woman is. And what I truly have to, because they think, oh, you can just have a conversation with her. She'll just, no, does not work that way. So very intelligent and manipulative and narcissistic. And she's beautiful and people like her. She walks into a room and everybody thinks she's the best person there.
Yeah.
That's her world.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't know. It's really difficult.
Yeah, I would echo what Erin's saying about therapy, and also if you haven't connected with Recovering from Religion, I would definitely reach out to them and just have have that relationship with them, they have good agents and helpers that can walk through different issues with you. In fact, we're doing a fundraising for them later this month. They do incredible work. The thing I would say about what Erin said and what you referred to in terms of talking with a therapist about your mom, I think, give up. And I'm not a therapist, so this is all just me thinking out loud with you. I don't have any qualifications whatsoever to give anyone any advice on anything. Huh?
And some therapists shouldn't have any business giving other people advice too. Some of them are terrible, okay. And I've had horrible therapists.
Oh yeah, we all have. But I do have a lot.
So I appreciate your.
Yeah, go ahead. So what I was going to say about that is, and I had to do this with my own father, who was very toxic and abusive, manipulative with me, well into my later adult years. I had to cut off relationship with him and not even read the letters he sent me. It's not about fixing the relationship with your mom, in my view. That's unfixable. I wouldn't even worry about that anymore. It's about your own mental health and taking care of yourself and coming to terms with the mistakes that you feel like you've made with your kids, because it's what you learned from your mom and the guilt that you carry there, and dealing with that and getting free from that. And excuse me, I've got a thing in my throat. It's only I would only refer to my mom in this scenario in terms of helping a therapist understand what I'm thinking and feeling and where these ideas are coming from and what it's caused in me. And then move on from there. This is about you and you making sure you're getting the best self-care that you can and moving forward from what this toxic relationship has done to you. Excuse me, I've got a drink. I'm sorry.
Understood. Okay.
I know that when I made the decision to stop talking to the family members that I have pretty much cut off communication with, it was a decision that I made because it caused me so much stress and turmoil every time I had to deal with them for whatever reason. Just that trying to keep up this pretense of a relationship that didn't exist or a bond that wasn't there. And then politics and religion and everything else got involved, and it became kind of a toxic environment for my kid. So once I felt like it was affecting my son, that was when I turned on myself and I said, oh, hey, you know what? This is really causing me a lot of stress. It's causing my family a lot of stress. And I made the decision to cut the tie because of that. And it's been hard because I still care about those people. I still love them. I want the best for them, but I know that they are not beneficial to my life or my family's life. And that was the basis I made that decision on. But it's not something that I would tell people, hey, cut off your family, but for me personally, that's what I did. Granted, I'm not in a situation where my family members are really, really ill. And I don't even know how I would react if one of them were to be in a situation like you're in. Would I feel obligated to go try to help them or whatever, but finding the right therapist and the right support is absolutely the most important thing you can do. But I think that, if the point of the show is talking about living our lives and making the best of what we have right now, then we do have to take into account our own stress level, our own mental capacity to handle toxic people and where our boundaries are. It's hard to live your life and enjoy your life if you're wrapped up in a horribly toxic relationship that's, probably not benefiting her much either. If she's really upset that you don't believe in God or whatever she's upset with you with, it may not be great for her either. But absolutely check out Recovering from Religion and their chat and the immense amount of perspectives and experience and just support that you'll find there. You'll probably find somebody who can relate.
Yeah.
there's always someone to relate. We think that we're special, but most of the time we're not. And there's somebody going through the same exact thing that we are. And I really appreciate your guys' advice.
It's tough. I'm not saying this is a hard thing. And I know that the thing we struggle with family is we feel this obligation to make it work. We feel this obligation to have some kind of relationship because it's my mom, it's my sister, it's my son, it's whatever. And if we can free ourselves from that and just look at them as any other person in our life, is this person doing damage to me? Is this person toxic? Am I doing any good for them? Are they doing any good for me? What is this relationship producing on either side of the equation? If we can look at it from just the human standpoint, then it can take the emotional baggage that comes with this obligation. And then we can just treat them as another human. It doesn't mean you have to cut off ties. It doesn't mean that you shun them or anything drastic. It's just that you look at the relationship differently and you don't expect the same things out of it. I don't go to someone to get something from them they just don't have for me. I wouldn't be asking Erin to send me $1 million because I don't think she has it. She might. If she does, she better share some of it with me. But the same thing is true with someone that we're looking for emotional support from. All of society tells you should get certain things from your mom. That's just we're expected to get. Mom should be this, this, and this to us. And when that doesn't go as we expect it to go, there's all kinds of feelings that come with that: guilt and shame and grief because they weren't there for us. Well, who told us that they're supposed to be X, Y, and Z for us? There's some kind of societal rule that we bought into. And so I've told folks before, you're looking for someone in particular that I'm close to, you're expecting your dad to give you something that he just doesn't have. It's not in his tool belt. It's not in his arsenal. He does not contain what you're asking him to give you. So you have to lower your expectations of what that relationship can be. And that to me has allowed me to approach relationships with much more of a healthy outlook. I don't go into them with the same kind of expectation. And then any kind of encouragement or support I do get from them, it's a bonus because I wasn't really looking for it. And I don't find that I need it. I get that from somewhere else. I get that from relationships that are healthy, regardless of what the status of them is. They may not be family. We've all heard that you don't choose your family, or you do choose the family you want. It's the people that you gather around you in your life. But you don't choose the family you're born into. That's completely out of your control. So we've got to learn to quit giving it so much weight. And I know you're in a difficult situation because your mom's sick, and that adds a layer to this that normally wouldn't be there. But hopefully you can just back off from it a little bit, minimize the contact you have with her, and then the contact you do have, just approach it without a lot of expectations.
Yeah, expectations is I think she understands what the expectations are. Conversations of boundaries are difficult. So all these things to even start the conversation with someone who's like, I don't want to talk about it because I'm sick. It's like, well, how can you expect me to do anything for you when we don't have these boundaries and these expectations set? It's just a power move, right?
Yeah.
Because then she gets the power.
Oh yeah, that's a narcissist.
Yeah, there really isn't an answer.
No, there's not. You just have to manage it the best you can and take care of your mental health. I think that's the key here.
Yeah, expect nothing.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
And you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, that is a little freeing, isn't it? I can see that logic.
Well, it's not just a mind game. It's really adjusting how we view a relationship and looking at it from a different angle, where we've been locked into it, mother-daughter angle or father-son angle. If we back off from it and look at it as a human-to-human angle, then it might just help us to get a different perspective. And that different perspective would allow us to approach it with different expectations or no expectations at all.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually really helpful. That's silly. Such a simple thing. Thank you.
You bet. Well, hang in there, girl. Best of luck to you. Thank you so much for calling in. And I would say thoughts and prayers, but I saw a meme today. Someone put a picture of two cats lying side by side on their back, fast asleep. And they said, I named my cats Thoughts and Prayers because they're useless.
Oh, I love that. That's good.
You
Dave,
take care,
thanks for what you do.
You bet.
Okay, you too. All right, thanks. Bye, Erin.
Bye-bye.
I
What's that? All right, we've got time for one more call, and then we're going to get to the super chat. You got time for that, Erin?
I do.
Okay, we got Dave, great name, he, him in Texas. Not so great of a state, but a great name. Dave, you're on the line with Dave and Erin. What's on your mind?
Hey, I just wanted to address your previous caller when you were talking about recidivism in the United States versus Scandinavia.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm actually a court-recognized expert on prisons and prison conditions. So
Okay.
I've got a little bit of knowledge on this. A couple of the problems we have, one, in Scandinavia, they actually have countries that have recidivism rates as low as 8%. In the United States, we have, especially in Texas, close to 50% recidivism. So that's people who commit crimes within 3 years of being released from prison.
Wow.
And I think, I think one of the biggest problems we have is probably thanks to, former President Bush and his tough on crime initiative.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody remembers the Willie Horton issue with, I think it was TACIS who was running for president. He had released somebody who had recidivated and committed some horrendous crimes, and that's what Bush just latched onto, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody has been, quote unquote, tough on crime since. In Scandinavia, they actually focus on rehabilitation. They have legitimate programs to try and keep people from coming back. One of the most important things they do is they actually treat them like humans.
Mm-hmm.
So they will have intramural sports between guards and inmates, and your punishment isn't to be treated like dirt and slave labor. You actually work a job. A lot of those places, even people who committed murder, actually go into the community to work, and then they come back and they're locked down at night.
Wow.
So, but I think one of the biggest problems we have here is we don't have, we have plenty of money. We just don't focus on legitimate programs that will correct people's behavior and teach them, how not to come back to prison. And in the United States, we have a school to prison pipeline. It definitely affects people of color more than anything else. So we have to break that cycle, and we have to end that prison or school to prison pipeline.
Yeah, I don't know that much about it. I've seen some TV shows about it, so I must be an expert. But I don't know. What's the answer? Again, we talked about it with the previous caller, but how do we get from where we are now in Texas to what more closely resembles Scandinavia? Why don't we study their things and try to imitate it? It doesn't seem like we're trying to do that.
We're not. As a matter of fact, there are wardens from the United States who visited these facilities over in Norway, and they flat out said, we're not going to do that in the United States because they're brainwashed by the idea that, if you treat people like dirt and you keep them in unair conditioned conditions, then they're going to remember how horrible it was and not commit crimes. What they don't realize is a lot of those crimes, drug related, over 55% of the people incarcerated are for drugs. Portugal, in 2014 or so, decriminalized every drug, dropped their prison population by 55% overnight. And they took all the money they saved from those prisons and put them into drug treatment programs for people. It's just a ticketable offense over there now. And that also, you know, when you do something like decriminalize drugs, you just, you know, drop the market price for everything so low that people aren't going to be sneaking over the border. You know, let people live their lives and do what they want. Let the employers decide whether or not they want to do drug testing and, you know, have reasonable controls on it. But you go look at Amsterdam, that has the lowest crime rate of anything or anywhere in the world is Amsterdam. They have decriminalized sex workers and almost every drug. And people don't commit crimes because they're not having to rob people to buy the drugs they want.
Yeah.
And let's face it, things like marijuana have medicinal benefits as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way we're going to fix this is to change the attitudes of people. I don't think any crime should have more than a 20-year sentence.
Yeah.
And I know you can come up with any example that's just horrendous and say, well, even those people? Yes, even those people, because you can put controls into place to make sure that you don't have lunatics and people coming out, you know, people are getting therapy and treatment.
Right.
You know, it's sad. Our prisons, since they defunded so many of the mental health programs, our prisons have become just holding facilities because so many of those people in there need some type of therapy or treatment or counseling or medication, and they couldn't afford it. And so we don't treat them, we just throw them in prison because it does make money.
Yeah.
And your previous caller said that, you know, private prisons, you know, have an incentive to make money. They do. And they will actually keep people there longer because if somebody has good behavior and they don't get in trouble and they get released, that's an empty bed. So there's been many times where they will give people false disciplinary actions just so they don't have to give up that bed. But I think eliminating private prisons is a good idea. But the other thing is the prison system here does make money because anytime they do a contract for telephones, anything that they sell in there, they have in their contracts, for example, in the telephones, they get 50% of the money billed by that telephone company goes into the general fund for the state of Texas. So it's all about making money.
It is. Yeah. And it makes too sense to imitate a Scandinavian country for us to do it here. I mean, I just don't know. I'm skeptical of anything that we're doing here in this country these days. But we're the greatest country, so don't forget that.
Yeah, well, we're so great. I mean, we have to be the greatest. We have more prisoners in the United States than any other country in the world. I think we house 25% of the world's population of prisoners.
Yeah.
So bigger and better in Texas.
We're going to put you in charge of it to fix it, Dave. So, yeah. Thanks for calling, Dave.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank y'all. You have a good night. Bye.
Good night. Oh, geez, that's discouraging. Decriminalizing sex work. What are your thoughts there, Erin? What a novel concept.
Definitely think it should be decriminalized. It's silly. It's for the most part a victim, and the fact that it's never ever going to change, and when it's stigmatized and made illegal, it only makes it more dangerous for everybody involved.
Everybody. And it's a victimless crime. It's just like, come on, people, wake the fuck up.
So it's the same thing. It absolutely the same thing with drugs, like the exact same thing. And if we're the country of freedom and do whatever, then it's ridiculous that both of those things are illegal. Because if you truly believe in freedom and people, you know, being able to have bodily autonomy and do what they want to do to live their lives, as long as it's not affecting anybody else, then you really have no case for criminalizing either one of those things. Unless, of course, having a full prison lines somebody's pockets at some point. Yep. And then we found the old white guy in the mask. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you're criminal system or your legal system is undergirded by a controlling religious system, which ours is, whether we want to admit it or not. This country, so many of the laws and the ideologies in the legal system are defined by and controlled by heavily controlling and manipulative religious systems. That's going to be a problem until we separate church and state more so than we already have, which I don't know if we're going the right direction on that.
One of the most important things that, the collective body that is the secular movement, I think is helping is to help to remove that positive connotation that religion or specifically Christianity has.
Yeah.
And this goes into the Christian outreach groups that would come into the strip club, and of course they do it for prostitutes and stuff like that. Is, people look at those organizations as religious and good. They're good. They're helping these people. Look what they're doing. They're not. They're exploiting them. They're using them. They're perpetuating myths and stereotypes, the stigmas. There's a reason why when you're watching a crime show and the police are like, oh, the victim looks like they were a prostitute. We're not going to now we're not going to try so hard. Obviously, she put herself in a shitty position. Fuck her, literally. And they, you know what I'm saying? Like that whole stigma allows that kind of abuse, and that it also perpetuates the idea that religious and God and these people are helping. Look at the Christian soup kitchens and all this stuff. A lot of people that aren't really super religious, like I talked about before, the higher power people, the spiritual people, those people look at religion in general as just an extension of that it's, it's a good thing. And I'm hoping that collectively, with recovering from religion, with what you're doing, with all the different organizations, with separation in church and state, I'm hoping that we're finally starting to shed light on people using religion and the assumption that it's good as a hammer to control and exploit other people, because that's what they're doing. There may be a context where religion or certain woo beliefs or whatever is beneficial to somebody to a certain point, but when we're seeing people actually exploiting religion to further their own stuff, usually it's money. It's probably always money.
Money or power. Typically money or power or both. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's always the greedy guy in the mask at the end of the show. That's what it is. So.
Yeah. Sadly. That's good perspective, Erin. Thank you. Well, let's do some super chats. Jimmy, what do we got in the super chat world?
Let me tell you what I wouldn't give to had a Ruby mask ready right now to just come on as we're talking about it's all for the money and the man in the Ruby mask, to just be like, anyway, let's do super chats now. I'm Jimmy Snow in a Ruby mask. I'm sorry, I regret not having that ready. Y'all want some?
Be ready, Jimmy. You need to be ready for anything on this show. Come on.
I'm ready for a lot, and I've pulled off some pretty elaborate jokes like that before, but that one's a little too specific, I guess. Y'all want some? Why don't we?
Oh, by the way, I didn't mention what's coming up. We got tell me what's tomorrow night. We got Matt and the
Apostasy. Oh yeah, with Apostasy.
Yeah, on the hang up. Stacy, and you've gotten them going. Stacy's mom's show is off and running. I've seen that, so they're awesome.
I'm so excited for the development of that. I just think it's such a great idea.
It is a great idea.
And then, we've got the Transatlantic Call-In Show on Thursday. Who's on it? I can't remember. We do be on the lookout in June, because not only will we have a huge fundraising event at the end of the month featuring lots of people, not just from the line, but also we'll call it the line extended cinematic universe, or whatever they call it for
all
for
over
Marvel.
The interwebs.
The LCEU. Lots and lots of people are going to be coming, but we'll also be doing sort of like some soft, maybe not soft fundraising, but a lot of promotion of it. We're really hoping to be able to this year raise $25,000 for RFR, and we'd love to actually knock 10,000 of that out before the show even begins. So if anybody is interested in being a part of that early on, you can actually find on our channel. If you go to the channel and you see upcoming live shows, you'll see the RFR fundraising event, and you can right now go and even just go give this. The nice thing about this one is any amount, they get 100%. If you go and you hit the donate link, leave a chat or whatever. So even if usually it's like, you know, all I could ever usually send is $1, and that's not like something that I can even get a chat for. This being a charity thing, go over there and leave $1. They're getting rid of all fees. The truth is, if you leave $1 super chat for $1 on a regular channel, on a regular show, I think by the end of it all, we get like 50 cents. It's like extra bad. But in the case of this, in the donations, 100% of that is all going. YouTube's not taking a cut. And so you can go over there and hit donate right now. It would be an excellent thing to start. Yeah. And then in June, we'll be launching 2 new debate shows. There will be a big push on Patreon and new Patreon perks, as well as we're deciding where to launch an online community. I lean toward Reddit because between Reddit and Discord, Reddit is kind of like, it's like Reddit's cancer, but Discord is full blown, like you're going to be dead in 3 days. Terribly toxic. I don't know. It's like, it's awful. Yeah. It's like Reddit's skin cancer, but, Discord is pancreatic cancer. That's what my sister's dying of. So, we don't know each other all that well. I have a huge family. I have 12 siblings, and she was out of the house. But it's sad. I'm very sad for her family. I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm sad for my nieces and nephews and all that stuff. Anyway, I say we let's smooth out the tone a little bit here, and we'll put some lo-fi on. I don't like this one. Let's try something else.
I'm gonna bring it down. We're gonna bring it down now.
That's right, everybody. We're gonna bring the tone up.
Bring it down.
And the dance is down. I don't know what I'm saying. And we'll get started.
Erin, you start us off.
All right. 1999 from Greg Markowski. The Miracle Nun is in Gower, Missouri, which is 10 miles from us. So my atheist housemates went. Of all the bizarre things about it, my friend said the most was people are believing this like it's 1223 instead of 2023. The Miracle Nun body.
I saw that, and it's
what is that?
They exhumed this nun for some reason. I may get details wrong. Greg will do another super chat to correct me if I do. But they exhumed this nun's body, and she's remarkably not deteriorated much. So this is some kind of a miracle. And you know how there's people love their nun miracles. So, somehow God is doing something special because this dead body is not deteriorating as much as some people think it should. So somehow this is evidence of God's power.
Yeah,
so,
worth noting, she died 4 years ago, and we do now load up bodies with preservatives. I'm not saying she's not more preserved than you would expect to see. Sure, she looks as preserved as somebody who would eat, I don't know, like Panda Express every day. I imagine if you ate that every day, you'd just... It's also just gross. I just like shitting on Panda Express. But anyway, I don't know. It's.
I like Panda Express, actually. They make it right there in front of you. It's all fresh. But this is on the level.
Are we thinking of the same place?
This is on the level of Jesus and the toast. This kind of miracle.
Yeah.
And I guess my first thought is, why is it a miracle? Like, okay, so that her soul should be in heaven, right? With like the wings and the harp and shit. So
that's exactly what the Bible says. The wings and the harp and shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So who gives a fuck about her body here? Like, I don't understand why.
She's a nun.
And
it's
why?
Be like the body of the
them
Pope.
to dig her up in the first place?
What?
I said, what prompted them to dig her up in the first place?
I don't know that part of the story. There was some reason they had to move it, or I don't know. Yeah, there was some legitimate reason, and then they saw, oh my God, look at her. She's hard. She looks so good for 4 years dead. So God involved in this.
Hopefully, I'll have enough Botox that I'll look that great 4 years after I did.
There you go. Work on that.
No,
Erin.
it seems like my boobs will still be here. I'm almost positive of that. But
Well, there's that.
doesn't that kind of negate the whole point of heaven, and heaven being the goal, and heaven being your soul, and your body just a vehicle and a vessel here and whatever? Doesn't that kind of just negate the whole thing? If you're all excited that she hasn't rotted yet, I don't know.
You would
Well,
think.
she's rotted plenty. She just rotted less than their
Less.
opinion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a miracle then. My bad.
Yeah.
I'll shut up.
It's a miracle. Let's just call it. Let's just let them have their miracle. Somehow they need it.
She just looks still recognizable, more recognizable as a human than looking like something you'd worry would chase you around if she suddenly
Like a
awoke.
zombie.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a better
Moving on.
story. All right.
$5 from I Got Cookies. Looking good, Dave. I'm always glad to see your smiling face. Hello, Erin. Thanks, Cookie.
Hello.
There's also very deceptive headlines about it because I've been looking at the pictures over here, and there are some headlines that are like that show no signs of decay, and it's like, well, we're not looking at the same person
No.
at all. Yeah, that's anyway. Crack her open. Let's see what the insides look like.
There you go.
$5 from Robin Webster. Hello, Dave and Erin. Hello.
Hey, Robin. Thank
Thank
you. New Zealand money, $8.99 from Lemon Peel Angelfish. Much love, Dave. Always good to see you. Hi, Erin. Wave, and a big thank you to all the crew. Woohoo, crew.
Do you know what New
Thank
Zealand
you.
currency is called?
No.
They're dollary dues.
Huh?
Dollary dues. It's just dollars.
I know.
Hey people, there's only a few left, so y'all need to get some super chats in. We got to pay for, the whole thing, the show and stuff.
$20 from Forrest Valkai. Dave is the best. So happy he's on the line. I agree.
Forrest,
Dave.
Thank you, Forrest. Good to see you on here, man. Appreciate you coming out.
He was at my house yesterday.
Name dropping.
We spent the evening please, Forrest Valkai name drops me, bitch. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Forrest is name dropping. He's telling everybody he was at Jimmy's house.
It's like, do you even know where I was? That's so not true. Anyway, yeah, we did a bunch of photos and then I just built a computer for him. It was 60 pounds when it was done, this absolute behemoth. And yeah, if people for some reason want to see, the specs are on both his and my Twitter, how good a computer I built for him.
There we go.
Word.
$9.99, almost $10 from Claire. I've heard that the only reasons for punishment are vengeance or to keep someone dangerous from hurting others. Don't penalties also provide an incentive to keep people from committing crimes? Go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
Word.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. That yeah, there is the vengeance element that some people latch onto, wanting to see someone suffer who's made them suffer or loved ones suffer, but there is a deterrent factor to keep others from doing the same thing.
But so, I mean, there's plenty of studies on how minimal the deterrent effect like prison as a deterrent is terribly ineffective, especially the way we run it in America. There's a small group of people for whom that maybe they aren't, maybe they don't have lots of empathy, but they're also pragmatic. So they're not going to murder people because in society, you shouldn't, you could see the penalties, but outside of that group, I mean, how many people really are willing to murder that a law or a prison is going to stop from murdering? It's just not that effective.
There's usually other factors involved, a crime of passion or someone being drunk or on drugs, or that they didn't think this through. They didn't sit around and think, okay, if I do this thing, I may go to prison for X number of years. How badly do I want? Most people aren't sitting around calculating those kind of things. So yeah, the deterrent factor is probably not as great as we'd like to think it is.
Yeah. I try to commit at least one crime a day.
But they're petty.
Some
and they
of
don't hurt
them.
anybody. You know,
Well, most of them.
thought crimes that they only offend God.
At minimum, I try to speed at least once a day.
Oh, of course.
When I drive, you know, at minimum. At minimum.
You don't park in a handicap spot, do you? Because I get really upset at people who do that now that I'm handicapped.
I did in the past when I was dealing with my leg, but I was allowed.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I got into it with a guy who was parked at a handicap spot, and he was sitting in the driver's seat. I walked right up to the window, and I just stared at him until he rolled it down. He said, "What do you want?" And I said, "Are you handicapped? I don't see a sticker." He said, "I'm just waiting for my friend." I said, "Well, wait somewhere else, because someone like me couldn't park here because you're in a handicap spot."
Literally. Yeah.
And
I'm in the handicapped or waiting spot. The fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, he said, "Fuck off, man." I said, "You fuck off. I'm not leaving. Move your car." He did.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm passionate about it now that I need those spots.
Yeah. And no one's going to hit someone with ALS. Like, that's how you get murdered in Texas.
Yeah, these days you'd get shot, so I got to be more careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, well. Whose turn is it? Me or you, Erin? Who gets Will?
I think it's me.
Okay, you get Will. He's the best.
All right. Yes, $20 from Will Judy. I'm so glad that I'm on the same side of history as you two. Here's to our future adventures together. Thank you, Will. And hey, nice to hear from you.
Yes, Will, love you, buddy. We got to get back down to Houston to the Oasis there and do a little Texas tour. I'll talk to you about that. We've been talking about when we can make that happen, but future adventures, absolutely.
Word.
Canadian alleged money in Canada?
Yeah.
Alleged money, Canadian dollars, $27.99 from Kathleen Moncrief. Hey, it's my favorite show again. Thank you, Kathleen. It is, unquestionably. Everybody says it's the best show on YouTube now. Everybody's saying it, so it must be true.
By now, Kathleen has bought at least one of our production PCs for us. So those alleged dollars are actually going a long way.
Yeah. What was it I said last week? Euro dollars or something stupid?
Yeah, you said it was something like 15 euro dollars. Yeah. Or you might have even said dollars euro.
It was one of those things I knew as it was coming out of my mouth. I went, "Oh no, come back!" and I couldn't get it back.
And then you were like, "Don't worry, Jimmy will roast me about it." Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he did.
There's few things you know in life are going to happen, and me roasting you is one of them.
All right, we got $5 from Skeptics and Scoundrels. Good show, folks. Maybe that nun ate a lot of McDonald's hamburger buns before she died. You know, my first thought as being well preserved was both Ozzy Osbourne and Keith Richards. So maybe she just did a lot of drugs. She killed herself.
The thing that's wild about it is there's clearly something. Look, I would be very impressed if she looked unpreserved and was still so intact. She looks covered in a layer of wax. There is clearly a chemical preservation. She doesn't actually look human. She looks like she's covered in wax. Yeah. And then again, especially around her hands, you can see heavy decay. You also can't see much of, she's in a full nun's outfit. The only thing you can see are from like around the wrist to the ends of her fingers. And then she's got like the full cheeks are covered, like a nun covering. Like you can see very little.
Our miracles away, Jimmy. We need our miracles to prove God's existence and His goodness.
Well, and we wouldn't want anybody to get any, impure thoughts from looking at her either. So, it's important she stays covered.
All right, I'm giving everybody my permission to exhume my body after 4 years, and I promise to be naked.
Oh God!
Can't wait for that. I'm glad I'm going to be gone before you. I don't want any part of that.
Hey, I wouldn't take any bets on that, my friend.
$4.99 from Melody Kate. No more suffering. Okay. I think that's a good idea. I don't know how to prevent it, though. The human condition is filled with suffering. It's part I don't know. If we didn't experience suffering, how would we measure anything that's good? How do we even have pleasure if there's no suffering to compare it to? Again, it goes back to this thing we were talking about earlier. If you take away all the pain, the grief, the sadness, and you're left with just only good things, how is there even any comparison, any way to measure that? Everything's just a straight line.
But I mean, even if you just think about how humans current day work and you compare their privilege and the things they have access to across the board, it's impossible not to suffer, because you can have the greatest life and all of the money and access to everything, and basically whatever your minimum state of existence is becomes suffering for you. Everyone suffers relative to their own existence. And so you see people with, like I said, unlimited resources who are less happy than people in very poor areas of the world who are finding happiness with it. So it's almost, the concept of not suffering might be impossible.
I agree.
Yeah. Fucking billionaires complaining about their lives.
Yeah, I've only got 3 beach houses. I need 4.
Yeah. I wanted the bigger yacht, the one that comes with a smaller yacht.
New Zealand, $11 from Citizen Gold. I'm amazed at how everyone north of the equator thinks Australia is part New Zealand. Dollar reviews are an Aussie thing. Like that accent. Love you all, and go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
I'm sorry. Dollary dues might be an Aussie thing, but I push back against. I know the difference between the accents, and I added the Steve Urkel honk in there, and that's all you got to do. And then Australian becomes New Zealand. It's a bit silly, I think, to pretend like there's an entire world between Australia and New Zealand. Clearly, they influence each other's cultures, but they do not like to hear that.
They definitely don't like to be compared with each other. Like, I've got a friend who's from New Zealand. He's a Christian singer still. And I used to bug him. I said, "Oh, New Zealand, Australia, it's all the same." Oh man, he would get so upset. No.
They're clearly the 2 biggest cultural influences on each other of anywhere in the. It'd be like me just being pissed off at. I don't even know. I've lived everywhere, so what would I even say at this point in the U.S.? I mean, like, but if I was actually from here in Austin, to be like, stop comparing me to people in Michigan. We have nothing in common. I don't know. Well, it just seems silly.
You don't really.
People from Texas and people from Michigan. I mean, there are differences, and there are noticeable differences between New Zealand and Australia, but to the rest of the world, not that much of a difference.
You're right.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the last New Zealand dollar we'll ever be receiving on this channel.
No, I doubt it.
That's it. Unless people want to send them in right now, just overload us with more money and super chats. That seems to be the end.
Well, that's fine. We can say goodbye.
It's so
Erin?
hard. Okay, I'll shut up.
Erin, what you got coming up next? You're working on a new book, I hear. What else?
Well, I just put out my first full-length fiction novel in April called South of Heaven. And has a lot of the themes we talked about, getting into heaven and what the rules are and who ends up there and who doesn't. And, of course, there's lots of blasphemy and sex jokes because that's pretty much my jam. That's pretty much it.
You get that on Amazon? All your books are on Amazon, right?
Amazon. Yeah, all my books are on Amazon. This one and my last fiction novel are both published through Hellbound Books, which is terribly appropriate. That's about it, is what I got going on. Look, he sent us another $11.
More New Zealand money, $11 from Citizen Gold. I doubt it too. Thank you. Did you?
That's about it right now.
Did you do the audiobooks on your books? Do you do those yourself?
All of my books are available on Audible. The new one is in production right now. But yeah, my first five books.
Did you read the voice? Did you read?
I didn't, because we've had this discussion before. Technical stuff is really not my bag.
Oh, yeah.
So
I don't know. It's not mine either. But when I got into the rhythm of recording my audiobook. Oh, I better plug my book too. Childish Things, my memoir. It's available on audiobook, Audible and Amazon. But when I got into the rhythm of recording it, right here in this little room, it got easy. I got into a flow, and I would send each chapter off to get it edited, and they would send it back, and we would download it. And so, yeah, it was daunting to begin with, but the actual process, once I got into it, wasn't that bad. I just had to pause it when every airplane went over and dog barked outside, and because I didn't have a soundproof room, so the quality wasn't what Jimmy would have liked, I'm sure, being the expert technician he is.
Yeah, I looked into producing my own audiobook and gave up fairly quickly. I watched like 2 YouTube videos on it, and I was like, I don't have the time nor the money nor the space to do it. And so,
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and then with the publisher, we picked a narrator together, but that decision was kind of out of my hands. So
I know I talked to Andrew Seidel about that on his, and it was so funny. He was saying, I auditioned to do the Audible for my own book, and they rejected me. I don't understand that.
It's a whole insiders club.
Weird.
Oh my God!
It's weird to hear somebody else reading my words. It's strange.
I would hate it.
Can I narrate your next one, Erin?
Sure. Actually, what I'm working on right now, it's probably a long ways out, but what I'm working on right now is a chick that ends up kind of incidentally with a succubus as like a best friend.
Word.
Chick. Yeah.
Give me your succubus voice, Jimmy.
My succubus voice?
Yeah.
Let me think. No, that is tough. I'd have to. Do you know, though, I think I would have to license this voice because it already belongs to another program.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good.
I'm going to succubus, baby.
Oh, my God. Jimmy, you're messed up.
I know. I've got problems.
Well, Erin, thank you so much for being with me tonight. It was fun.
Absolutely. It's great to see you again. Anytime, Dave.
Well, we'll have you on again because we're going to have a rotating cast of characters, and we'd love you to be a regular.
Great. Thank you.
You bet. All right. Go get your dinner so you don't get hangry.
Where's the fucking music? You just called me a tech god or something like that, and the music's not even fucking playing.
There's our patrons.
Yeah.
Patreon supporters. Thank you for that.
This was supposed to be good. Okay, here
we go. I didn't read the announcements. I really suck at that part of these things.
It's all good. Here's the end screen.